Welcome back. I'm your host, Sean Swentek. I'm joined today by Richard Gamburg, Technical Services Manager at Renewable Properties. Welcome to the show, Richard.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
We're here in sunny San Diego for an event called AMNA, Asset Management North America. All the greatest minds in solar and asset management, battery storage as well, are here. And so lots of great topics. What are you most excited to hear about this week from the conference?
I'd like to see a lot of the new automated service systems like the drones, the AI capabilities, finding out which ones are more actual than hype, and then that's basically it. Just meeting people really and talking to the different people, finding out stuff, discovering is really what this is all about.
100%. There are a lot of entrants in our space right now touting AI capabilities. Are you seeing a range of what's real and what's not there?
Yeah, this happens a lot with new technologies. Like there's a lot of promise, and there doesn't have to be any follow through until some time goes by. And so we're right at that stage where between promise and follow through, and I don't know, it's anyone's game. There's not much you can't really discount anybody yet because, like I said, we're really close or new. They have a lot to prove, so we'll see.
Renewable Properties, one of the fastest growing developers, especially of community solar. I think you have over 200 megawatts now across the Eastern Seaboard, and in California, you're growing a lot into other states.
Right.
What are like the biggest issues you're trying to solve for in your portfolio as you're growing? What are the things that are really keeping you up at night?
It's the usual. It's trying to keep your plants up and just get production consistent is really one of your harder things. The things that keep me up at night is those single points of failure. If it's your transformer or trans switcher, which is something new, those are the things that are a problem. And there aren't a lot of off-the-shelf solutions for those things. I mean, a lot of those single points of failure have very long lead times. And so you just have to mitigate the best you can and try to buy the best equipment and really prepare for failure, because you're going to get it. There is, I think it was Fronius, one of the engineers told, everyone likes to talk about their percentage of failure. And the reality is it's always 100%. It just depends on when, right? You can buy a new car and your percentage of failure may not be that high, but it will break. And so you must be ready for it.
You're living on the other side of the spectrum from a lot of people you'll encounter historically in solar who are like, set it and forget it, no moving parts, there's nothing to worry about. They're like, things will break, so be prepared.
Oh, yeah. So recently there's a big movement of owners building their own sites. And there's a lot of opportunity there, right? You're basically building your own house. And so you can control, it's all about control. What is that final product? You could look at it as the control you have is the cost. And that's the most obvious and easy one. But I look at obviously the other side of the spectrum, which is you want to control how easy it is to maintain your house, right?
Yep.
Do you have, are you using good materials? Do you have the right layout? Is the drainage good? I mean, is your house going to flood every time it rains? Those are things you don't want to have happen.
Yeah.
Now, when you build, there's the return on investment type of thing, right?
Yep.
Where you invest a little bit in the front and you get a lot of return in the back.
Yep.
So that's always the push and pull because there's financing, right? And so you want to get low price for building it to get your financing to make sense, all the numbers, but you also have to realize that you're going to have to live in this house. And so it's probably a good idea to make sure it's easy to maintain.
Well said. Taking it from the house back to what you're referencing, that it's a solar system that someone builds. How do you ensure, if you're like a commercial real estate customer with a huge industrial building, you put a solar system on there, how can you ensure that ROI that you're expecting and your investors are expecting?
That's a hard question. So again, if you're designing and doing all that kind of stuff, you can either make it cheap to build or cheap to run. It's really, really hard to do both.
Yep.
They conflict, right?
Yep.
And so you have to look at it. It depends on your time scale is what you really want to look at it. So for example, you have to replace some major piece of equipment and it's very expensive. You could probably get away with not doing it, but the investment is not X number of dollars for this one event. It's X number of dollars over the lifetime of the system.
Yep.
And that is really lost. Well, it's not lost. There are practical considerations, right? You can't have X number of dollars per quarter, or you can just know that's what business is, right?
Yeah.
So the way to deal with that, you can spread your costs over a year, years, whatever it is, if you want to invest, but you're not going to get away from that need. You're gonna have to paint your house, right? You're gonna have to do that. Now, either you're gonna paint it really with good paint and not have to do it for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have cheap paint and do it every 4. Now, obviously, it's easier to do it every 20, cheaper. The point is it's cheaper
Yep.
to do it every 20 than every 4.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of equipment that's, especially when you're building, you're like, oh, let's try to save some money on this piece of equipment. Well, that's great. And your build definitely did come in under budget and all that, but you're going to have to replace that.
Yep.
There's just no point into doing it badly. So it's a hard balance because there are practical concerns with the money as well as the maintenance.
Yep.
And so that balance all has to do with your time frame.
Yeah.
If you're talking 5 years, do it cheap, flip it, get rid of it.
Yep.
You're going to try to keep that for a while, then you want to make it easier because it's always less expensive to do preventative maintenance than corrective maintenance.
Yes.
Every single time. Every time.
An ounce of prevention,
$100,000 worth of whatever else.
Yeah.
I mean, especially when you're building the site, there are small details that you don't think about until you have to go and maintain it. There's grading may not be a big issue when you're doing it, but it is when you have to do veg management.
Yeah.
A lot of little things like that, but yeah.
For a commercial real estate person who might be listening to this and is considering going solar, it's like O&M is one of those misunderstood costs and long-term costs in the industry. What specifically do they need to be thinking about, especially if it's like ground mount versus that industrial rooftop we talked about earlier, a carport? Like, what specifically do they need to have in mind that they need to be planning for as it comes to maintaining that system?
It may not be the system that you have to think about. For example, roof-mounted systems. They're really great, right? Because you have a roof.
Yep.
There it is, a lot of space. However, if something happens and it burns through your roof, you now just lost all your advantage.
Yeah.
Or you have to repair something. You now have to pay to remove that system, store it, do your repair, to have it reinstalled. Whatever advantages you got, whatever returns you were getting is just lost by not accounting for things that are going to happen. Your roof's going to leak. That's going to happen. You're going to have to paint. That's going to happen. I can't tell you how many times people come to my door at my house and say, would you like solar on your roof? No, I do not want solar on my roof. But thank you for asking, And so a lot of these investors are learning this over time, right?
Yeah.
And you'll see less companies trying to put solar on their roof and a lot more putting in the parking lots.
Yep.
You can get there. You can cordon it off. You can work on it. I guess long story short is don't forget that you're going to have to fix it and that it affects everything around it. That would be the answer.
In between, when you're having to fix your system, these solar arrays are producing and generating return on investment, and they're great. There's a lot of different ways to measure success and performance in a solar array. People talk about uptime, people talk about availability, there's availability guarantees, there's performance guarantees. What do you prefer? What's your measurement of choice to understand if a system is doing what it's supposed to do?
Weather adjusted data. That's it. That's the only metric worth looking at. I like analogies. And so if you have a car and it can go 100 miles an hour, but then you put a lot of weight into it and it's only doing 80, it's still working perfectly because you have that if you account for the weight, it's doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing.
Yep.
Any other metric doesn't show you that.
Yep.
Is it performing as well as it can? If it's not, then fix it. If it is, then you're good. Anything else is not pertinent to that.
I've heard of it happening in our industry where someone gets a system installed, they expect it to produce a certain amount of energy, and it's producing less than that. And to sort of your analogy, that's not always a bad thing. How can someone know what a system should truly produce, not just based on the nameplate, but what that system is actually capable of? Like, how can someone know what to really expect versus what was promised to them?
It's garbage in, garbage out, right? And so the more you do on the front end, the more knowledge you're going to have, the more, if you map out your site, you account for all the shading, you strictly production, that's really all you're looking for, right? Shading and availability, right? So if you're in the middle of a flat desert, that's not a problem. But if you're going to try to install in the mountains of Maine, then you've got to account for these things.
Yeah.
And it's fine. That's the beauty of solar. You can put it anywhere, but you got to account for that and be realistic about it. You can't ignore a problem that exists. So it's always about studying the site, figuring out its weaknesses and its strengths, and realizing that you're not going to get, if you install all of your panels, but they're shaded in the winter, some are shaded in the winter, you're going to get less than the entire nameplate can produce.
Yeah.
But if you account for it, then you're good. And again, this all goes back to weather adjusted data. It did as much as it can. And if that's where you're at, then that's where you're at. Can't change that.
I really appreciate your analogies. As you mentioned, Renewable Properties does a lot of community solar. That's not the easiest thing to develop.
No.
Why community solar? What are the benefits for you and the clients you serve? And then maybe what are also some of the difficulties? And in case there's a developer out there going, should I be doing more community solar?
Sure. Community solar is one of the strengths is that you're dealing directly with people and you're going right to the customer, which is also its problem, because then you have to collect money, and instead of the utility being your customer, you've got 100 different, and then you have to try, and they're not going to be there forever. Some fall off, some come on. So you have to manipulate that. You have to manage that. So it's harder, right? It's almost, especially for renewable properties in Aaron, it's almost like it's a quest. It's a drive to make this happen, because when you deal directly with people, they really get it. If you just do the utilities, they don't see that utility has 20% solar, and that's doing that. If you go directly, then it's more understood by the public, and I guess it's more appreciated by the public, and becomes exactly like the name implies, a community solar issue. And it shows that even small communities can have their own power generation plants without needing a huge utility. And so there's that as well. And it's kind of like a movement that Aaron's trying to do. So that's really great. But you got to diversify with everything. And so utilities are definitely easier to deal with as far as one point of billing, but community solar is an important aspect of the whole thing.
Is battery storage getting more of the utilities' attention? Does it feel like that is sort of waking them up to the value? And where does battery play into renewable properties? Are you guys starting to develop more storage?
Yeah, we are actually. We're doing a big project now up in Northern California. So the utilities need an ability to regulate. That's really what their main thing is in CAISO. I mean, you gotta restrict and try to balance, and then there's also the practical thing about billing. The issue is the storage, and so utilities are coming or wanting that more to be able to dispatch that energy, especially like for brownouts and whatnot. They just need that 10 megawatts of battery for 4 p.m. or whatever. That helps them not have to invest their own capital. They just turn it on. And so that does help them a lot. So that is the interest. When I first came into this, it was almost 10 years ago now. It was much more of the hippie movement type of thing, where it's all green and it's a lot to do with personal beliefs and whatnot. But then the investors came in and realized that there's a lot of money here. And that's why there's nothing anyone can do about stopping this train, because there's money involved. It's cheaper than doing it any other way. And so utilities have no choice but to lean into this, because at the end of the day, they're energy companies. They're not coal burning companies. They're energy companies. So I think that dictates the change.
Yeah. I mean, the studies are showing solar is the cheapest form of new energy to create in the U.S. right now. So,
I mean, you almost have to be a zealot to do you really want to burn coal? Is that what your thing is? I don't know.
You can do it cheaper. You guys are growing rapidly. You've got assets all across the U.S. and you're going to new states. How do you even start to approach servicing those assets in the long term? That's got to be a challenge, especially across like a geographic scale like that.
Any maintenance. It is a challenge, yes. You have large outfits, and then you have the smaller local
regional
providers. And you really have to use both, and you have to use each to their strength. Again, with a single point of failure, I like to have more than one provider per area, per site, just in case one can't make it. I call someone else. It's also a matter of relationships with those with your providers. Some providers are good at some things versus others. And so you've got to really learn when to use your options, but options are important.
Having a deep bench. And
Got to have a deep bench.
yeah.
Just because there's, not everyone can do everything.
Yeah.
There are some people that are really great at swapping out an inverter. There are some people that are really great at handling comms issues. And so there's all these niche type of things. And it's important to know bench, when to send somebody in, when to pull someone out.
And someone who's great at medium voltage, say, because I'm not getting near that.
Right. Right. Exactly. And so that's you have to have a deep bench for those specialties, especially medium voltage. That is quite an issue.
What innovations do you think are going to drive our industry forward? Like there's going to be a lot of new things debuted at this show. And what do you think it's going to take to further solidify solar and battery storage as like reliable energy sources? Is there anything like you're thinking about, like, man, I wish we could solve for this in this industry?
The hardware really is the problem. Making things more easy to fix. For example, be like a transformer. If your transformer goes down, you're about to have a very bad year.
Yep.
Because unless you are so rich that you can just keep a few on spares, you were the lead time, right? And so it used to be that you could fix inverters by swapping out parts, and they have really gone away from that. But that would be the only solution. It's just, again, it's a practical matter versus what you need. And so there's that balance. And making things more modular would be helpful, but it's just like anything else. I mean, it's like saying the same thing about a car. I mean, make it break less, make it easier to fix.
That would be the dream. How is your approach, and it doesn't have to be specific to budget, but forecasting for solar assets evolve as your portfolio's expanded? What is it like for you as you're sort of predicting project costs and how it's going to impact the business when you're developing in California versus North Carolina versus New York? What do you have to take into account as you're working on different projects in different regions?
Policy. That is, so our company has an entire department just for policy, to find out the kinds of laws that are happening. And I think that's really an important sauce to have.
Yeah.
We have that. We also have our development team, which is critical. I mean, just finding out how to get which permits and then getting them. I mean, that's a whole thing into itself. But our policy department is the one that will look at local laws, find out where it's easier to go to. And that's really, you can develop a site and then realize, the AHJ is just not going to play ball. And so knowing that ahead of time is really what it's about. It's that, it's knowledge is power. Our permitting team and our development team and our policy team, they are quite impressive. So that's how you do it.
What unconventional solutions, if any, have you found that significantly improved asset performance at your sites?
Shade. Heat is going to destroy this entire industry. We had a problem with our inverters overheating, put up a shade structure, solved it. We dealt with that for like almost a year, and we finally would just like put shade on it. So that solution, it could be incorporated in the building. Yeah. Has to do with like looking at your site and really doing the legwork, the policy and the development, and all that kind of stuff. If you're going to install in Arizona, you probably should put a shade structure over it. So manufacturers, purveyors, vendors always have the most amazing things. It's amazing. But in practical purposes, it rarely works as well as advertised. And so you have to account for that. Yes, it says it can handle 150 degrees, but it probably won't do that for long. And so you need to help, like you got to put good tires in the car. You got to put your good oil in the car, that kind of stuff. And so if you don't put wax in your car, it's going to have a bad paint job. So these type of preventative types of things and mitigating, it's like has to do with that investment again. I mean, you're going to not installing shade over your inverters will not increase production $1, but it'll prevent breaking more than once. And that's the most
worth a lot more than $1.
Yeah, which is worth a lot.
You said you're starting to develop more battery storage in addition to solar. It's a whole different beast, servicing and maintaining battery assets. How do you approach that part of the business versus, your work overseeing solar assets?
You get someone who knows how to do it. It's not a learning curve you want to go on. So batteries are heat is the problem, and then you can't let them sit idle. Little brick, right?
Yep.
So that's you just can't get away from that. They're coming out with new batteries which are less volatile, and so that will help a lot. But batteries are, it's like nuclear power. I mean, you got to do it a certain way, or else it will not work well. And I've seen it go badly. So yeah,
I think we all have them.
there are no shortcuts with batteries.
Yeah. The news has had a few of those stories lately, unfortunately.
Right.
Investment tax credits are a big topic on our industry, continue to be, especially with what's happening in the government and what might change.
Sure.
How are you approaching tax credit optimization across like different asset types in your portfolio?
Again, policy team and development team, and they really look into the laws and what's behind it before the contracts are signed. Doing your research pays. That's really the only answer there.
Yeah. I thought you might go down the path of like the community solar that benefits the LMI communities is like a huge driver of the need that the low to moderate income community adder. I mean, I love it because it's bringing renewables to the people who traditionally been underserved by it.
Sure.
Richard, earlier you were talking about things are going to break at some point. You can either know that and plan for it or get caught with your pants down in the end. In our industry, there's two main types of service: preventive maintenance and corrective maintenance. When you think about planning for the future maintenance of a site, what's the right way to attack that?
First, you have to look at your manual for any of your equipment.
Yeah.
They're going to tell you what to do, especially for your warranty purposes, right? It used to be that the inverter companies especially would just RMA almost anything for any reason without asking. And now they're a little bit more stringent. There's a lot more hoops to jump through, and they will ask you if you've done X, Y, and Z as far as your preventative maintenance. It's important because, again, let's think about a car. You never changed oil in your car. You should expect your car not to perform well. Matter of fact, it's probably going to go very badly for you at a certain point. And so along the same idea, it's imperative to do your preventative maintenance inspections and to do all of that work. You must check the oil in your transformers. You've got to check your fuses. You got to do your VOCs. You got to do all of those things. They absolutely will save you money in the end, right?
Yeah.
If you wait for something to fail, you've already lost the game. If it's failed already, you've lost.
Yeah.
If you prevented it to fail, then you're winning. Like there are usually signs that you can that'll tell you what to do. But it's imperative to also get something I call planned services, which is again the preventative maintenance, the veg maintenance, anything you can plan for and prepare for will save you money.
Yeah.
It may not make more production, but it will save you money in the end because you can check your VOCs to see if you have strings out. You can find damage. Like there are so many times that had they looked at this, then that wouldn't have happened. I mean, that story is so many times over everything. And it's deprioritized recently just because of the costs involved.
Yeah.
A lot of the O&M contracts have taken much of the inspection out of it because of the cost involved.
Yeah.
But again, the car analogy, I mean, anyone that's driven a car for more than 10 years realizes that you should check the oil and get your alignment checked and change the tires and all that kind of stuff. None of those things make your car drive any better, but it will let you drive it longer.
I love that. Your analogies are great. To make it real for folks listening, say we've got someone who's at a REIT and they own a large industrial building and they're thinking about putting a 1 megawatt rooftop system up there. What is the actual cost for ongoing O&M that they should be planning for, like as a % of investment in that overall project? Or like, can you ballpark it to where people can start to understand, okay, here's what it's really going to cost me to maintain this asset and not get caught on the back end?
That's really hard.
Yeah.
It is really hard to do that. Again, it has to do with, it depends on a lot of things. How well was it? Like the equipment is one thing, but how well was it installed?
Yep.
Just certain decisions during the installation can change the entire arc of your maintenance thing. And so,
too many variables.
There's too many variables. It's like, it's the same thing with your car. I mean, how could you ever predict? Like when's your your heater your transmission, whatever fails, there's no way to know. But yeah.
So speaking of installation quality, where do you stand on QA/QC? How important is that to you?
Critical.
Thought you might say that.
QC is absolutely the most critical part of any development, because by the time you found out there's a problem, it's already expensive.
Yep.
And so if you're looking at a site, there should be a few check boxes for just at that point. I mean, where is it near? Did you happen to put it next to something that's going to soil your modules? Or is there a bunch of, kids over there that's going to break your panels? Is it next to a golf course that might get golf balls hit onto it? Just those types of examples. Before you even pull a permit, look at something like that. That's QC is from cradle to grave. And so even, like the wire management, the installation, the torque settings, all of those things have to be good. Whether or not you do it now or then, it has to. There's no way around it. And so you might as well check if you did it right before it becomes an expensive problem.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like you're saying QA/QC, while maybe a little more expensive up front, can really save in the long term.
100%. Yeah. Again, with the house, whatever. Would you never inspect the house you're building for yourself? Of course you would. You should expect problems.
Yep.
And so, because there's people involved, right? Yep. And so nothing is ever on paper. And you won't realize until it's after it's done. And that's too late. Then you have a problem. You couldn't avoid a problem. Then you're living with it.
Well said. So the show's called The Future of CRE Sustainability. If you put on your prognostication hat, what do you see happening in this industry in the next 5-10 years? What do you want to see, maybe?
Right. I think it's going in the right direction. It's all about understanding the equipment and how it performs over time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of the maintenance is really being looked at differently, because they understand that you can't just ignore it.
Yeah.
And so I think that direction's already being done. So I'm pretty happy about it.
We need to just have this broad campaign to drive awareness of the importance and the cost of ongoing maintenance for these systems, because you have to plan for that from the outset.
That's right. Yeah.
Success.
You have to look at it like it's a long term viewpoint.
Yeah.
You can't look at a quarter of a year. You got to look at 20 years, just like a house. I'm going to live in this house for 20 years. Should I not clean that up? Yes, you should.
You're going to have every listener thinking about all their home stuff after this episode. It's great. Or their car, too.
Yeah.
Your analogies are amazing, Richard. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. People want to learn more about you, the work you're doing at Renewable Properties. Sure. Where should they go?
Go to Renewable Properties, yeah. Renewprop.com.
Renewprop.com. Amazing. Thanks for being on the show, Richard. I appreciate it. To all my listeners, thanks for tuning in to another episode. I'll see you next time.